Lindiwe Sisulu says the water department has serious problems that need urgent attention and that it will need more money from Treasury. She says South Africa needs more dams, that our water infrastructure is old and that there are not enough people with the right skills to deal with it. But despite that, she has also said today that she will try to eradicate the bucket system in just 6 months. The Deputy Minister of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo, is in our Cape Town studios now. Deputy Minister, good evening to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time today. You are now part of a department that was once described by the former Minister Gugile Nkwinti as, I think his words were, a mess. How would you describe the department after what Minister Lindiwe Sisulu said today?
Well, thank you very much, Stephen, and to all your viewers across the country. Today we had an opportunity to present our budget policy statement to Parliament. There is an acknowledgement that the department has some difficulties, especially with respect to issues of the stability at the top of the administration, where a number of managers are under investigation through certain issues of allegations of corruption and mismanagement. But equally so, the department has challenges with its financial position if you look at the levels of irregular expenditure and the accruals that needs to be dealt with. But overall, there is a clear plan to stabilize the top. That's why the minister today had to make an announcement that the DG for Human Settlement, Mbulelo Changana, will be actually the acting DG for the department. We will work very close with the Department of National Treasury and other institutions to be able to deal with some of the issues that are raised around the maladministration and deal with the cases that are there. But also the challenges that are faced by the water sector, because you will know that the country is a water scarce country, and you look that there are a number of areas that were actually experiencing drought, but at the very same time, we are having high levels of pollution into our rivers, which is a matter of concern that citizens are complaining about. But you still have a number of South Africans that don't have access to water in a number of communities where dams are running, where taps are running dry. And also there are those South Africans who still don't have decent sanitation. That's how we've looked at the issues when we presented our budget policy statement today.
Deputy Minister, you have your own experience in the department. It was some time ago now, but you were there for a long time. What's gone wrong? I mean, in your view, is it what happened when Nomvula Mokonyane was the Minister of Water Affairs and Sanitation?
Well, I will not be able to try to ascribe some of the difficulties of the department to a particular individual. One of the issues that when we got our briefing, we have noticed that the department, when it comes to infrastructure planning to ensure the security of water supply, the planning part of the department has been neglected over quite some time. That's why we're saying that our planning modules, so that we can ensure that water is available, will be improved using the latest technology. The other issues that we notice that the department has not been able to handle it well is the question of the whole infrastructure development. You look at a number of mega projects that were being implemented, very important ones. A number of them were implemented without the budget or the requisite budget that was there because of the question of the engineering capability that had some problems. And this is where you have noticed that in a number of these projects is where irregularities or allegations of corruptions have been reported, and we are aware that these investigations were being conducted. Then the other thing that we have to tighten up is the ability of the department to ensure compliance and enforcement. A number of water users in the country continue to use water without implementing efficiency measures. Some of these users in the main municipalities, the mine, also industries and agriculture, they continue to pollute our water system. Therefore, we'll have to tighten our licensing regime, but we must also implement that those who pollute our water, they must be able to pay in terms of the waste discharge system. But more importantly, there has to be prosecution where the environment continues to be polluted.
Deputy Minister, I mean, the problems seem huge. There are problems around ageing infrastructure and skills. They're big problems to fix. And yet at the same time, we have a promise that the bucket system will be eradicated in 6 months. Is it actually possible to fulfill that promise?
Well, we have to note that this bucket eradication that we're referring to, Stephen, we're referring to a backlog that has been existing. Remember, the previous administration, before this administration, made a commitment that in various communities around the country, the buckets will be eradicated in those formal settlements. In the main, we had a challenge that there was no bulk infrastructure that was available so that you can be able to bring the raw water into those households. And when that waste is being actually excreted by our communities, there is adequate facilities in terms of the wastewater treatment works. In terms of the two remaining provinces, which is the Northern Cape and the Free State, already teams have been dispatched from the department, working with the water boards of the Bloem Wharf, and including the water board of Sedibeng, working with the affected municipalities, including in the Northern Cape, to say they must be able to work with speed, drawing from the experiences of the work that we've done there before, and will keep a very close eye and a tight program that those communities can continue to have unsanitary services that are being provided to them. Right. Let alone about those 14 million South Africans who don't have sanitation services. That's why where there is no water, we'll look at new sanitation technologies like issues of non-sewer water that is there, the beneficiation of the waste that needs to happen in those other communities.
All right, but Deputy Minister, I mean, 6 months, really? Can we hold you to that promise?
Well, it's an ambitious target, but we'll want South Africans to judge us on the basis of this commitment, and the institutions that are assigned to handle this assignment, we believe that they will do their level best, because it's not the first instance when they were exposed to try to do with the question of the bucket eradication system, and they will be able to report to the nation on an ongoing basis to say, how far have we gone? Do we have some challenges in our implementation?
I mean, Deputy Minister, just as an example of this, there was a story in the Sowetan newspaper today about learners who were dumping their own waste, their own feces in the veld. That had to remove it from EnviroLoos. I mean, surely that's not healthy. We've seen that in the pictures during this conversation. I mean, this just shows how big the problems are.
Well, the problems are there. We have to admit that our problems are massive. We have done well as a country over the last 25 years. If you look at the issues of the provision of basic services like water and sanitation, but we are the first to admit that there are missteps that we have committed along the way. But looking at the leadership of the sector, working with private sector, working with the water boards, working with the municipalities, we are actually of the view that we have the wherewithal and the capacity to turn the issues around, supported by our communities, because the water business and the sanitation business is not only the responsibility of the state, it is our responsibility as a collective. It's a societal issue that we must resolve.
Deputy Minister, I do have to ask, you were the State Security Minister during the Zuma era. You were seen as very involved in some of the events that happened then. Have you been watching the Zondo Commission and what the former president has said this week?
Well, you will respect that, Stephen, if you work in that particular environment, I will not be able to give you an opinion because of the things that I got to be exposed to, either to see or hear. But the most important issues is that the State Capture Commission has been established by this government. It is our responsibility, all of us as South Africans, that we must be able to support the commission. Those that have information must be able to provide the information to the State Capture Commission without any fear or favor, so that at least the call by the president of the new dawn, renewing our country and rejuvenation of our nation, can be able to take effect.
Presumably, if you believed when you were in cabinet, when you were the Minister of State Security, if that one of your colleagues, one of your cabinet colleagues had been an apartheid spy, I would imagine you would have done something about it, right?
Well, Stephen, I will not assist you. Let's respect the doctrine. Intelligence matters, as you will know, we will never discuss them in public.
Is that okay? Do you believe, and I do have to ask you this, you were the Minister of State Security during a very difficult time in this country politically. Do you believe you always did the right thing while you were in that position? And do you remember the events that occurred then and what you were accused of doing?
Well, Stephen, let's not take our chances. As I've said, I've done my part. I've made my contribution at the time as I was in the executive. I will never be tempted to abuse the information at the disposal when I work to try to do my best. There will have been mistakes along the way, but one actually tried to execute himself with that particular team of capable individuals in the intelligence services to the best of our ability to keep our country safe.
The Deputy Minister of Human Settlements, Water Affairs and Sanitation, David Mahlobo. Sir, I do appreciate your time today. Thank you very much indeed in our studio in Cape Town.